welcome to my channel. And I'm just going to put this disclaimer at the start of all my videos that I'm re-uploading. 5 years ago I solved the double slit experiment with a simple inequality, and all the physicists I approached about it refused to listen because it goes against what they have become embedded in believing. And I solved a grand unified field theory from it, which solves and fixes everything in physics with clear, simple mathematics. The equations of 1, 3, 7 being vortex equations. They're not particles, they are vortexes moving inside a space-time fabric. I give the quantum field structure, I give 26 dimensions held together by strings, which are actually elastic pipes. Explain quantum gravity, dark matter, dark energy, everything in physics. But because it proves the particle model wrong, and because it proves the Big Bang wrong, the people in power refuse to listen. But they don't just refuse to listen, they've consistently destroyed my work and had it taken offline. So in my videos I'm quite angry, so please excuse that. If you can, see it as me being the guy in the Titanic, getting the message, there's loads of icebergs coming up ahead, and me saying to the people in control, okay, steer a different course, this is the correct way, and those guys going, don't listen to him, hasn't a clue, this is the Titanic. We've got it all sorted. Thanks, enjoy the video.
Hello everybody, and what I'm going to try and do in this video is explain the structure of space-time, the space-time fabric, and why everybody is misunderstanding it, and I'm going to explain how to solve the vacuum catastrophe using the logic that should be used. So if we look at the space-time fabric, I have it here. Now I've got a pair of fishnet stockings stretched over a surface to signify the fabric, which space-time is. It's a very flexible fabric, and at every point, you can see here there's a network, and at every point in that network there's a particle or a node, and in between each particle there are connecting pipes which can expand and stretch. And that's probably where the string theorists get their strings from. And I'm going to explain the vacuum energy and everything, but I'm just going to explain this first. Now, if you look at the fabric, okay, if you take one, say I take this point here as being the center point, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points connected to it. So you've got 9 points altogether, okay? And you consider that in 3 layers. You've got 1, 2, 3 sitting on top of each other with the one in the very center. So you've got 3 nines, you've got 27 particles. The one in the middle is connected to 26 other particles at every point in the field, in space-time, or dark matter, whatever you wish to call it. It's all the same. And so because you've got 26 particles, you have 13 lines moving through each direction in space-time. So we have 13 dimensions. Okay? Now, in my theory of everything, I explain more how those dimensions work. But basically, we've got 13 dimensions of space-time. Now, we know from experiments that the universe cannot be filled with an ether. But what has been overlooked and misunderstood is that in these strands of space-time, there is an ether. It's a fluid which runs through as if it's a network of pipes that the fluid runs through. And when we create movement, it sends a ripple in all directions. If we want to refer to Euclidean space, in 3 dimensions, in all directions. And this is what we see when we see when we see a wave of energy passing a particle in the field, which is always stationary. It oscillates, but because we are traveling through space, when we view it, it seems it's an optical illusion. It seems like that particle is moving, but it's not. It's the energy that's moving through the particles. Now, how mass is created is we have that magical number 137, which is relevant to the angles, the level of energy, and the impact of that energy at the angles. If it goes above a certain threshold of 137 to 1, then matter is created, because matter then becomes caught in a vortex. I have another video on the same channel showing the principle of energy being caught in vortices. Now, so I'm going to try and demonstrate it here using a pen. So let's see what's easiest for you to look at. So imagine we have a vortex of energy stuck in a particle. It hits it at such an angle, like a photon hits at such an angle and at such an energy that it cannot travel straight forward. It gets stuck and it starts to rotate, starts to spin, a vortex of energy. So what happens as it starts to spin? It creates a clump. You can see that, I'm sure. Creates a clump around where the vortex is. And that's what we know as mass. That's what, now, it doesn't represent it fully here, but because we only have basically one slice of space-time. But if we had the full 13 dimensions, what happens is we know that energy always moves forward, but it'll always move forward along the path of least resistance. And once mass is formed, then the points of least resistance, the angles acutest, are pointing towards where mass is. So energy will always orbit around, going towards mass, and matter is pulled together into clumps. And of course we know that this gathers into planets, suns and black holes. Now, as you can see, as mass is formed, what happens in the surrounding fabric is the surrounding fabric is stretched. In other words, it expands. This is the expansion of the universe. It's not an outwards expansion, it's an inwards expansion. As you can see there, it's expanding. That's the expansion of the universe. And in terms of redshift, why this causes a shift towards redshift is because as the fabric stretches, these pipes interconnecting between the particles, their diameter decreases. So any energy passing through is reduced. As we know that the speed of light is constant, so the speed is constant, but the amount of energy is reduced because the diameter of these pipes is closed, becomes closed, so less energy can pass through. And when it gets really compact, what happens is we have matter spinning so fast because there's so much energy caught up in these clumps of mass matter that we get black holes. Now, black holes they don't have singularities, because as we see, this is a physical lattice. It has finite points. The finite points are these point particles that exist all throughout space-time. And when we get black holes, what it is there's so much light, so much electromagnetism concentrated into these black holes, very small areas with incredibly dense intensities of light and matter, that it twists the fabric so much that the fabric begins to spin faster than the speed of light. We know the light moving through the fabric can't move faster than c, but the fabric itself can. And what happens is that because it is spinning so fast with so much momentum, that the light that is trapped inside cannot escape. That's why they appear like black holes. But inside, contrary to popular belief, they are not the coldest places in the universe. They do not have singularities. They cannot. They are the hottest places in the universe. And this is one of the reasons why we get some mega supernovas, is because when we see with quasars, when they reach such phenomenal volume, they start, when you see these lines coming out from quasars, they're actually the fabric reaching a point where it just can't stretch anymore, and it begins to slow down. And once it slows down below the speed of light again, boom, we get a galaxy's worth of light released in an instant, and over a period of weeks and months. So that's how the fabric works. I hope that's pretty clear. I've tried to make it clear, even though my finger's in the way. I haven't got computers or anything. But the other thing now is the visual effect of gravitational lensing. We know that gravitational lensing, when we look at objects in space, we see light bending around these objects. And what we are doing when we see the optical illusion of an expanding universe, where it appears, we know from the redshift, people have misinterpreted that as stars moving away. It's not. It's light passing through increased gravitational zones. The more gravity we have, the more energy is lost en route. So the more redshift we have. The universe is not expanding outwards, it's expanding inwards in pockets. And the other effect of it appearing like the universe is expanding when we look at one point in the universe is the effect of gravitational lensing. I would call it panoramic gravitational lensing, where we are looking out through a lens. And we have the lens of the Milky Way, we have the lens of the solar system, and each time we have a layer of a lens, the universe becomes magnified. And because gravity is always growing, that magnification is always growing. So it appears like stars are moving apart, because the magnification is always being increased. And if you increase the magnification on a telescope or a microscope, any 2 points and that image will move apart. But they are not moving apart. It is the lens that is moving. I hope that's pretty clear. Comments, please, subscribe, and look at my theory of everything. I've explained who I am and why it took me to do this theory of everything. It's going to be a shock to a lot of people, quite a surprise, hopefully a pleasant surprise to a lot of people, eventually to everybody. But yeah, there's going to be resistance at the start, but it is the truth. It is who I am. And if anybody needs evidence, you know, the paper is full of evidence. A lot of people have refused to read this paper because they don't like the implications. As you can see with this simple demonstration, the Big Bang cannot be correct. Singularities cannot be correct. So please go read the paper, watch the videos, and spread this as fast as you can, please. Make corrections if it needs to be. Improve it if you can, by all means. But the CC terms are there. Now please go and spread it. Be scientific. I'm just going to clarify one thing I forgot to mention, was the vacuum energy. Now when we have these vortices created in the fabric and they clump together, they spin around, what happens is that the ether within the fabric is dispersed outwards from where the vortex is. As it spins, it forces the ether outwards into the system, in through the pipes, not in empty space, in through these pipes. This creates like a vacuum effect in the mass. Essentially, it's negative pressure which holds mass together, like we see it in protons and neutrons, all the way up to planets, suns, and black holes. So the more mass there is, the more ether is dispersed into the field, and the more mass is pulled together and clumped together. That's the vacuum energy. It's actually negative pressure.